presenting The Wave by LA Top Team.
Thank you guys very much for tuning in to yet another episode of The Wave, the most interesting show in real estate. Today, we've been lucky enough to be brought into this amazing workspace owned by Jason David. This place is called Stars, and I couldn't be happier to be sitting here with him to hear more about how he's been able to build it and create a life that offers him some freedom. How you doing, Jason?
Good, man. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. Good. So thank you so much for having us in your awesome workspace. Why don't you go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself, Jason? How did you end up here?
Lots of hard work. You know, obviously with the right opportunities and being in the right place at the right time, obviously that always plays a factor. And definitely God has been able to, keep me safe and protect me and allow me to be here today. But I think, above all, man, just really working hard at everything from the days of youth football, Pop Warner football, to my time at Charter Oak High School in Covina. I've always been a hard worker, and that's something that I really prided myself on. And so after leaving Charter Oak High School, I was able to earn a scholarship to Washington State, which was one of the hardest things I had to do in my life, just because I was never a great student. I was good, but I was never a great student, and because of that, when it came time to take the SAT and the ACT, like I struggled, you know, and I was fortunate enough to pass it on my very last time to get into college. And I'll never forget that evening when Coach Walker called me and said, man, you made it, you passed the SAT.
Qualified.
I was at the table eating Taco Bell, and my mom handed me the phone, and so that was really monumental to kind of how I was able to get here today. But passed the SAT, got to Washington State.
Let me stop you there real quick. We have listeners all over the country, all over the world.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Charter Oak High School is a school in the city of San Dimas, or Covina?
Covina.
In Covina, which is a border city of San Dimas, which is a suburb of LA County. So Jason's a local Southern California product, born and raised in a suburb of LA, went to a local high school here, super standout high school football player.
I was okay. I was probably the third or fourth best player on the team, but like I said from the beginning, man, I worked extremely hard, right? And so
You played for Coach Farrar, right?
Coach Farrar, Big Lou is what we call him at Charter Oak.
And he's legendary. He's a legendary coach, not only around the area, but pretty much high school, California high school football. He's a well-known character. So you were able to play for him in high school?
Yeah, played for Big Lou Farrar in high school with his son, Dominic Farrar. And they had a great staff, and they still have the same staff today, even when I was playing. And so I was able play for Coach Farrar and earn a scholarship to Washington State. There, I had a pretty good career. It was different.
Early 2000s, you were up at Washington State?
2004, and I mean, you got to imagine a kid from California traveling to Pullman, Washington.
Yeah.
Is a little bit different, right? It's not a culture shock, but it's definitely a change of pace from what you're used to in Southern California. So. Got to Washington State. I was able to go with a couple buddies of mine from Southern California, which helped make that transition a little bit easier than most.
Not from Charter Oak, though?
Not from Charter Oak.
Okay.
One from Pomona High School, Hamza Abdullah, Culver City, Carl Pema.
Okay.
One of my buddies who is from the Northwest, Eric Coleman, who all made it to the league, by the way.
Okay.
So we had a really good group going up there, and was able to, play for some really good coaches and with some really good teammates of mine that pushed me to get better.
You guys had some individual success, it sounds like, especially the LA group. Did you guys have any team success while you were there?
Yeah,
because Washington State has ups and downs, especially right now with Leach.
Well, the time we were there, we had 3 10-win seasons, and that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on, and we talk about all the time as alumni. It's like, look, we had a really good run there for 3 years in a row. We went to a bowl game. We went 2-1. Went to the Rose Bowl, won the Sun Bowl, won the Holiday Bowl, which are good bowls, but. We just had a team of scrappers. Like everybody that went up there, we weren't 4 stars or 5 stars.
Right.
We were a lot of guys who were just overlooked and just wanted to prove a point that we were good players in Division I. So we had some team success, and we had a lot of individual success, like I mentioned. And we're all still kind of a tight-knit group now. We still talk every day.
Right, I always see you representing Washington State on Twitter and Facebook and everything.
Man.
So you stay close with the guys.
Yeah, we're very close every single day. Nowadays it's a little bit easier with, the text message threads.
Yeah.
So,
so you were there for what, 3 years, 4 years?
4 years, 2004.
In and out, played 4 years, no red shirt?
No red shirt.
Okay.
But I probably should have red shirted. Like, I really wasn't that good. I mean, I left high school at 155 pounds. I mean, that's probably part of the reason why I only had 2 scholarship offers, but I knew once I got
155?
I was 155
so
pounds.
you were like, what, 5'10", 5'11"?
Not even close. Yeah. I would like to say 5'9", but I'm probably a true 5'8" and 3/4.
NFL 5'8" and 3/4.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
But I was able to do it, man. I even look at the game today, and I just kind of wonder, like, man, how did I even play at my height and my weight? And I played in the era of Jerome Bettis and Nate Traumines and Jamal Lewis, some of these big backs that I had to bring down.
And not only that, the rules were different.
Straight up.
The rules were different. There was not as much knowledge about the head injuries and stuff like that, so there wasn't as many rules stopping those sort of things.
Right.
So it was a
and
different game.
I wish they did, because I definitely would have benefited from them. But it was my job. And so as I look back now and I watch professional football, I do wonder, like, man, there's no way I played at that speed and at that level. But when you're doing your job, you don't even second guess it. You're just trying to get it done and make plays. And so.
I think that a lot, bro. When I think back, I'm like, how did I do that? But when it's your job and the culture and everybody is like, oh, we all hit. We all have headaches. We all run fast and throw our bodies into each other.
Absolutely.
It's different when you're in it, but man, looking back in retrospect, it's like, these motherfuckers are tough dudes. And we were one of them for a little bit, but you a lot longer than me.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we went through Charter Oak, we went through Washington State. what happened after that, man? 4 years in and out.
Yeah, so my junior and senior year, I had some really good years. I made first team All-Pac junior and senior year. And then, and the crazy part is despite having a really good junior and senior year, I didn't get an invite to the Combine. I didn't get an invite to the Senior Bowl. And at that point, at that age, I've kind of understood being that underdog role, and I've kind of embraced it. And so when that didn't happen, although I made 2 years in a row first team, I just took it like, okay, I still have some doubters out there. I still got to prove people wrong. So I had a really, really good pro day. I ran a 4.2, I jumped a 40, I bench 16, and you got to imagine, at that time, I was 175 pounds, but you're a 175-pound cornerback. There's no reason you should be benching over 10 in the bench, right? So I bench 16. I just had a hell of a day, man. I had a really good day of position work, and the Indianapolis Colts fell in love with me, and I got drafted in the 4th round in 2004. And
so no combine invite.
No combine invite.
What was the train? So there was no stars, obviously, when you were coming out of college. So tell me about kind of how. First, tell me at what point you realized professional football could be a thing for you.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I may have the possibility to have the opportunity to play football for a living.
Yeah.
Was that before you went to college?
No, not at all. It really wasn't until my junior year. So.
Good.
I barely got to college, so I was just happy to get to college.
Like,
I wasn't even,
I'm here.
I wasn't even thinking about the NFL. But when you play with guys who then go on to the NFL, it becomes a reality. So when you're a teenager, and I didn't meet guys who played in the NFL when I was in high school or when I was playing youth football, right? It wasn't until I got to college and I started seeing, hey, our linebacker just went to the league. Our safety that I played in the same secondary just got drafted. And so that's when it kind of became a reality. And before then, I was just playing football. Like, I didn't even play my freshman year, and I barely played my sophomore year. So it still wasn't really something I thought I was able to do. But once I started seeing guys go to the NFL, I said, hey, I have a shot. And then I kind of really focused in and started taking training seriously. But when it comes to preparing for the NFL draft, man, you would laugh at the place that I trained at, bro. Like,
yeah.
So it really wasn't what you see here today, or really what kind of is happening in the industry with these facilities popping up.
Right.
It was literally a storefront. I don't even want to call it a gym. It had weights in there, right? So like, all I remember is it having rusted weights. It wasn't anything fancy. I definitely didn't have the support from a sports med team like I have here, like we have here at Stars. I went to Massage Envy and I got maybe 2 massages during the time I was training, whereas here at Stars,
it wasn't even the right massage.
It probably wasn't.
You was getting whatever the special that they had.
Me? So like here, these guys are spoiled. They get massages 4 times a week. They have sports med 50 feet from where they're working out, whereas I was just training. I was on a grass field.
Right.
That had holes in it out in South Florida. But my mentality has always been to work, and so I didn't shy away from getting after it. I said, if this is where I'm gonna be at for the next 3 months, I'm gonna make the most of it, and I'm gonna get every ounce of anything that I can get from this place and this opportunity. So, I was so focused, man. It's funny, like when I talk to these guys and I hear them complaining about not having a close parking spot to walk into the door, I'm just like, come on, man, are you kidding me? Like, there's gotta be other things you can complain about, right? But it's okay, because we want our guys to feel like they're getting accommodated. We want our guys to feel like they're comfortable. But yeah, man, it was in that moment in time. It's the Super Bowl, right? So what I remember most about that moment is I had half a beer in my 3 months of training, but that's how focused I was. And a lot of that was because I didn't get that invite to the Senior Bowl. I didn't get that combine invite. I wasn't on any mock drafts. And so all that just kind of fueled my fire and put a super big chip on my shoulder that I already had.
Now, did you have an agent the whole time that was talking you through stuff, or was it kind of dark for you?
Well, he was talking me through stuff, but it was talking me off a cliff because I was mad I didn't get a combine invite.
Right, so I ain't going to get drafted, I ain't going to play.
Yeah, heck yeah. So every day I would call him, not every day, but at least once a week, I was calling this dude like, man, how come I'm not in the combine? How come I'm not in the Senior Bowl? And he had no answer. He didn't know, but he would just say, hey, you still got to prove people wrong.
Right.
Like, good luck. Like, I'm giving you an opportunity to go train. I'm paying for your training and your meals, which my meals were a pot of spaghetti, because I had to gain weight, a pot of spaghetti all week long and some rice. And it's not what these guys are getting again. These guys are getting gourmet dishes, right? I'm getting a Tupperware full of spaghetti.
Right. So these guys, most of the stuff chef prepared, delivered.
Like I said, bro, like these guys are, if I had what these guys had, I may have ran 4-1.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, real talk. But, but again, it's just the service that we want to provide for our guys. We want to make sure that they're getting everything they need from nutrition, from sports medicine, from strength and conditioning.
Okay. So you do that, you're eating your spaghetti, you're doing your thing. What are you
Chilling
doing?
spaghetti.
What, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks?
8 weeks.
Okay, so you did 8 weeks.
No position training, no speed
position
training, maybe a week of speed training at the Chris Carter speed,
Okay.
whatever, and he wasn't even there, but that was it.
Okay. Then you come back and it's kind of dark. You know, he's telling you that there's some talk going on with teams. You're hoping you fly straight from Florida to Washington for your pro day. What?
Florida to Pullman, Washington for
The
my
night
pro
before.
day the night before.
Okay.
And I have
Which is
one
standard
day.
standard procedure.
Pretty standard, right? And I have, in my head, I know I have one day to perform in front of these scouts and these
Right.
coaches. And
And for those listening that don't know, just real quick, go
Yeah.
over what pro day is. For somebody like us who
Yeah,
didn't get
yeah.
the combine invite, who didn't, have a chance at the Senior Bowl, what is that pro day?
So the combine, I'll start with the combine. The combine is where the top prospects supposedly go to compete in front of scouts and GMs and NFL coaches. And the guys who don't get invited to the combine, they have an opportunity to go through those same drills and those same tests that they do at the combine at their college. And for the majority of college football players, that's usually where they're able to perform in front of the scouts. And so my opportunity wasn't at the NFL Combine, which I would have loved, but instead it was at my school in Pullman, Washington. So I fly from Florida to Washington State. And again, I just remember being so focused at that moment that it could have been snowing outside and how locked in, yeah. And even the day before, man, it's crazy. I tell the story all the time. The day before, I'm meeting with the Atlanta Falcons, and the scout says to me, and he goes, "Hey, so how fast do you think you're going to run tomorrow?" And mind you, I am not at a fancy facility where we have timing gates or we have anything, so I have no idea. In my head, I know I'm a pretty fast guy. I just didn't know like a clock time that I could give him a real time. So I go, I think I'll run a 4.3 tomorrow. And he looks at me and you're not a 4.3 guy. And I'm like, come on, not again. But I kept my cool, man, because again, I've been through this. I getting overlooked in high school, not getting a combine invite. By this time, I'm numb to it. So when he goes, you're like a 4.4 guy. I said, okay, that's cool. Like, and I didn't really know how to take it. I kind of was caught off guard, but I said, all right, if that's what you think I am, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I show up to pro day the next day, and I mean, I'm uber focused. Like, my buddies are kind of laughing and joking, and my mindset has always been, you get the opportunity, yeah, man. Like, this is the once in a lifetime opportunity. I'm like, I'm not going to squander it, trying to be funny guy, laugh with my friends. So I show up, and I'm ready to go. And so I was benching 19 while I was training. I was doing 19 225 bench test. But the day of pro day, I only did 16. I hit the bar on 11. I arched my back on one of them that they didn't count. So I had two kind of hiccups within that 16, but I still cranked out 16, which is a high number for my height and weight. And then when I really started to get the attention of the scouts is when I jumped to 40.
So you're inside, you do your bench, you hit 16, which is 40 more pounds than your body weight 16 times, just to put that in perspective for you. You weigh 200 pounds, go put 240 on and go see if you could do it 15 times for the normal people. After that, you vertical jump 40 inches. So you jump 40 inches off the ground with straight legs, which is, you're jumping over us without bending your legs right now. And that shows incredible power, incredible force and power. So at that point, the scouts are paying attention.
Yeah, at that point, I was in my zone because then I knew I had the attention of the scouts. Then I knew I had the attention of the NFL personnel that was there on pro day, and so I kind of
always hope it's going to go that way, but you never know.
Dude, like that's the dream, right? You're preparing for this moment, and all you want to be is the talk of that day.
The guy.
Yeah.
The guy.
So what ended up happening is now scouts are starting to follow me to the drills, are starting to follow me around to see what I'm gonna do next.
Right.
And here we go to the 40. And of course, who's explaining it? My buddy from the Atlanta Falcons, who's telling you, hey, you have to do this. When you line up, you got to hold your hand. So, I'm okay, and I'm ready for my turn. And again, I don't really know how fast I am. So we get out there, and we line up, and it's my turn to go. And I remember looking down, and I could see all the scouts, and I could see a couple of my buddies kind of sprinkled in the crowd of the scouts, kind of, not with their stop clocks, but just kind of seeing what everyone else is getting. And I'll never forget. I line up and I take off, and I'm running. I'm putting it all together. I'm driving, and I run through the line.
You're counting your steps.
Well, yeah,
not even. You're like, man, fuck it. I didn't get coached. I'm running.
Yo, I'm going with what I know.
Right.
So boom, I run through the line, and it felt fast, right? I'm not gonna lie, like it felt fast, but I just didn't really have an idea. But when I turned around and I started walking back, all I could see is the look in my buddy's face. His eyes were like, yo, and like all the scouts, all the scouts were kind of looking like, no way, right? And so my buddy's looking at me walking, he's just like, and I'm saying, what happened? He's like, bro, they have 427, 429, and everyone's kind of counting the 4.2, so everyone's at the same range, which at that point, I was like, okay, I did my thing, you know, and this is my first one, so I'm feeling good. However, your boy from Atlanta Falcons, Jason, you got to run 2 more because that first one you didn't hold it long enough. And I'm just like, come on, man. So he tried to say it was a fast clock because I didn't hold the scout sprint ready.
Right.
No problem. I have another 40 to go. So my turn comes up again, and at this point I'm like, all right, I know I can run fast. It's just a matter of putting it together. And, you know, just to prove a point, I get up there again on my second 40, and they say you're supposed to hold it for 5 seconds. So I held it for 30 seconds.
Held it.
Just to be a jerk.
No, there's no question in this one.
So I held it for 30 seconds just to be a jerk, and I still ran a 4.34. So the third one he wanted me to run, my agent was like, dude, don't run it. You're already fast. They know that you're fast. But again, it was just one of those moments where, like, you put in the hard work, and this is why I'm just a true believer of hard work, because I could have went to Florida and I could have complained every single day about the food. I could have complained every single day about where I was working out at, every single day about not getting speed training. But I just, you know, if we were at the beach, I was at the beach on time. If we were at this elementary field park where we had to hop a gate, I was there on time.
Right.
And so when I put that 40 together, those 2 40s, at that point I was like, okay, this is my day. Like, let me take over. And everything else after that, man, it was special, man. It was a special moment in time, and I truly believe it was how I was able to put myself in position to get drafted and make it to the NFL, all based on that one day. But before then was based on the commitment that I made to the training when I was in Florida.
Right. Super impressive. So, you put up a sick pro day. There's that weird buffer between your pro day and draft where teams are allowed to bring in, I don't know what it was at your time, but I think it was like 60 people or something during my time. They can bring in a certain amount of people. During that time, did anybody call you in? Did you have an idea that you might be high on some people's boards?
Not really. And this is just my thought, is my agent, he had a relationship with the Dolphins, and naturally I went to the Dolphins, and I think they were just kind of not doing him a favor, but they were probably just like, hey, we'll take a look at your guy. You know, we have a couple of players on our team that you represent, so why not take your word and have your guy come in? So I went to the Dolphins, and then I went to the Lions for a trip. And at that time, it's not even a workout. It's really just to kind of get to know me. Yeah, face to face, which it was whatever. It wasn't that big of a deal. So I didn't really know if I was high on boards, if I wasn't high on boards. It was more like just that waiting period, man. And you remember that moment where it's just like, okay, I did pro day, don't really know how well I did.
Yeah.
Like, and then, you know, back when I was doing it, there wasn't Instagram and these mock drafts that you could just pull up online and see kind of where you're ranked. It was just a waiting game.
A serious waiting game.
Serious waiting game.
So let's jump into, you got picked up by the Colts, 4th round. Obviously, the family was super excited. You kind of realized that you achieved a dream, a lifelong goal, but then it was time to get to work, right? So tell me a little bit about getting to Indianapolis, earning your spot onto the field, and eventually being a contributing starter and a Super Bowl champion.
So that was another interesting process because, you know, you live somewhere and do something for 4 years, it just becomes who you are. And so leaving Washington State and then now kind of uprooting, and I was the youngest one on the team, by the way, when I got drafted. And so I was still kind of green. You know, I didn't really know how to pay bills and do that kind of stuff. So I get rooted now in Indianapolis, and I'm there part of the team, and I was sharing a story today. And just to show you how green I was, I mean, I get to Indianapolis and it's like, I think it's like training camp. No, it's mini camp because it was very casual. And I'm in the locker room, I'm walking around the locker room, and I see some sandals, and they look kind of different, like they look kind of fresh, right? So I'm like, man, those are pretty dope sandals. Like, where'd you get those from? They're Pro Bowl sandals. And I didn't even know I was talking to Dwight Freeney at the time.
Right.
But I was like, bro, like those are sick sandals. And Dwight, I can remember his face. He was like, man, who is this kid?
Who is this kid?
Yeah, get him out of here. So that was fun. I get to Indianapolis, you know, was able to get coached by some great coaches who are still coaching in the league. Leslie Frazier, Tony Oden, who's a defensive back coach now for the Miami Dolphins. Alan Williams, who's a D coordinator for the Lions, and Tony Dungy, Hall of Fame head coach, who I've taken so much from him that I'll share later as far as just from a business standpoint and just, you know, how to treat people. Get to Indianapolis, and I don't think I was prepared like I should have been. I showed up to training camp. I think I was out of shape. I couldn't finish the individual drills, and for those of you who don't know what individual drills are, it's simply just drills that you do before practice. So imagine being a 4th round draft pick and can't even finish the individual drills because you're tired. And at that point, I was nervous then because that same day at practice, I remember some of the players saying, hey, we've cut 4th rounders before. You know, you're not safe, so make sure, you know, don't think because you got drafted, just because it wasn't a good look. So I got through that process and got into the season. our first game versus Tom Brady, and I somehow got into like the nickel dime rotation and got a chance to play.
So you made
in
active roster for the first game.
For the first game, yeah.
Perfect.
Which was really cool because, as a 4th round draft pick, you don't even expect to really get on the field and contribute as a 4th rounder, let alone make the 53. So I make the 53. And I play okay, man. I think Tom Brady hit me. I don't think he hit me for a touchdown in that game. He definitely hit me for a touchdown. But I held my own. And then 2 guys, I think by week 2 or week 3, 2 guys ended up getting hurt. So when those 2 guys got hurt, then it was like, who's the next man on deck? And sure enough, just like when I was in high school, just like when I was in college, just like when I was preparing for the draft, I was ready. I was definitely prepared for my opportunity. And so when my number was called, the very first game that I started, I had the very first tackle of the game. That was a 2-yard gain. I had my first interception, and I had my first touchdown.
Damn.
All in my very first game started in the NFL.
Start.
Yeah, so a star was born, man. And from that moment on, dude, I took and ran with the opportunity. I never looked back. Started 13 games my rookie year. Started every 16 the following 2 years. And so I just blessed to just, like I said, stay healthy and just kind of be in the right position at the right time.
Well, lucky to get that opportunity, but at the same time, not everybody has it in them to be prepared.
Yeah.
And then when preparation meets opportunity, you still got to show up with the shit.
Yeah.
You see motherfuckers lay eggs all the time.
100%.
You see it in the Olympics. You see dudes doing the speed skate. They fall.
Yeah.
It's all they've done their whole life. They fall. You know what I mean? Everyone says when opportunity meets preparation, that's when great things happen. You still got to do your shit though.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, you still got to fucking show up and game. You got to be a
100%.
gamer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
just
100%.
because you prepared doesn't mean that the game is going to happen
That
for
it happens
you.
for sure. Yeah, no, that's a true story.
So it's luck. I mean, yeah, you are blessed to get the opportunity, but the impressive part is you prepared correctly, which is impressive. But you fucking did the shit when it was time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Make or break time. That's when you find out whether or not you
Well,
got it in you.
Exactly, man. Exactly. So that was a fun time, man. And my time in Indianapolis was dope. I couldn't ask for anything more, man.
So you won a couple Super Bowls or one?
One
Super Bowl?
One Super Bowl with Indianapolis.
Started a few years?
Started 3 years there. Started in the Super Bowl. Played well in the Super Bowl. I think I may have had 1 or 2 bad plays, but I played the entire game. And
Hell
so with some special teams and ended up winning the game, man, which was another great experience. I mean, it's hard to really explain other than, there's nothing left to do. Like, you win the Super Bowl and it's just like, okay, who or what do we do now? And really it's just a time to reflect, man. What I remember most about that game is just all the hard work, man. All the, barely getting into college on that last SAT, getting doubted on pro day. And those are all the things that I reflected on once we won the Super Bowl in Indianapolis or in Miami that year.
And that's what separates the doers from the sayers, is when everybody runs into those obstacles, it's about how are you going to respond to failing the SAT 3 times? Or how are you going to respond to getting kicked out of USC for punching someone in the face? You know what I'm saying? Everybody that we see has made something successful, had to fight that adversity. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People think like, oh, he didn't have what I had. No, he did. He just responded differently, or he, she, whoever.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
They responded differently, and they were able to be resilient, and that's why they have the opportunities
100%.
that they do. So, sounds like you've had a blessed life. And we haven't even got to the best part. You got wife and kids.
Yes, I do.
Tell me about them.
I do.
So did you meet your wife at college, after college?
So my wife went to Charter Oak High School.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Hometown.
And my older sister introduced us to each other. Her name's Crystal, my wife. Her senior year, my sister was a track coach, and Crystal was running track at the time. And I just remember my sister telling me, you got to meet this girl. She's so nice. You're going to love her. And she's going to be really cool. In fact,
and you know you trust your sister.
oh, you got to trust
she
big
has your
sis.
best interest
Yeah,
at heart,
man.
you know?
So, but the crazy part is at Crystal's senior year track banquet, my sister got on the mic. You know how you're doing the little awards. And my sister gets on the mic and she goes, I want to invite this next girl up to get her award. And by the way, she's going to be my sister-in-law one day.
Oh, wow.
Bro, this is in 2000. This is in 2004. And so we hit it off, man. She's a sweet girl. She ended up coming to Purdue. She was going to go to USC, but I don't know how I talked her into coming out to Indiana to come at least be closer to me, right?
Right.
And so at first I was just joking because we were dating, like, hey, why don't you come to Indiana University and go to school there? But she ended up going to Purdue, and that way we're still able to be close. And
though.
yeah, man, 45 minutes away, and it was good, man. Especially being that young, you don't want to just move in with somebody that you were just barely dating. You know what I mean? At least I didn't want to. And we've been together, this would be 13 years and married 8. And we have 4 kids. I have another one on the way. So that makes 5 kids. And
4 beautiful girls.
I was about to say, I don't like to call them kids because they're all girls.
Okay.
Kids are like boy, girl, boy, girl. This is my 5th girl.
You're having another girl?
Another girl, yeah. So that is the latest and greatest thing that's happening in my life. And anytime you get to give birth to a child or, bring another human being into the world, it's always special, regardless of the sex, man. It's, especially if you can have healthy kids, that's the most important thing.
I mean, beyond healthy, yours do fucking everything. What do they do? I mean, so they do everything. It looks like piano,
I can explain to you.
Ballet,
So I'll start
softball,
yeah. I'll start with my youngest, who's 2. She's along for the ride. Like, she just watches her older sisters and tries to do everything that they do. My second to youngest, Charlize, she's the loudest one in the family. We love her to death, but if you talk to her, if she was talking to you right now, she would be yelling at you and you'd be like, why are you yelling at me? But she's a sweetheart.
She got a lot of passion.
That's what I'm gonna say. There it is. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. And then Erilyn, who is my second oldest, she's a sweetheart. I think she's going to be the superstar of the family, whether it's singing or acting or dancing. But she's a girly
Probably
girl.
Not sports.
No, I know my kids are going to see this one day, but she's maybe more athletic than my oldest one, and my oldest one's pretty athletic.
Okay.
So my oldest one plays soccer, and she has daddy's genes. Like, she can go. She's super fast. And what I appreciate
Daddy and
most
mommy's
is
genes.
Yeah, because mom ran track.
She jump? Was she a jumper?
She's a hurdler.
Okay.
So she ran hurdles, in college for 1 year. But my kids are great, man. Like, my wife does a phenomenal job. I couldn't do it. Obviously, you can't. Not that you can't, but if I had to have her to raise my kids, like, for sure her all day long, hands down.
Yeah.
Don't know how she does it, but we just got a good groove, man. Like, our kids are dope. They're all happy, all beautiful, beautiful girls, man. All long hair, kind of fair skin, but they're good people too. I think we try to raise them in the church as much as we can, just to kind of give them a good foundation. Today's day and age, it's just crazy. And then now, kids have phones at 8 years old, and we got to communicate, my wife and I, on that kind of stuff. But our kids are good, and we're living life, man.
So, real quick before we get off the subject of family. Kind of runs in the blood, football and athletics and sports, because your wife's younger brother, current football player, sandwiched right in between some people that every one of our listeners would recognize. So he's right behind Dak, right, and right in front of Ezekiel.
Yeah.
That's Elliott on the Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott of Dallas Cowboys.
Correct.
So he's a fullback.
He a converted fullback.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what I was going to get into.
Yeah, he has a pretty unique story on his own, right? So this kid, just to give you a quick backstory, has been cut 21 times by the Dallas Cowboys.
He's my age, so he's 28. 28, 29?
No, he's a little younger. I think he might be 27 or 26.
Good for him, man.
And he's gone through some adversity, and he's had to bounce back and be resilient. But I think it's because of what he had to see me endure and how hard I worked. And so when I met the kid, he was the slowest, shortest, fattest 10-year-old, 11-year-old that anyone could ever meet.
That was.
That was. Right. It was.
That ever was.
It was to the point to where, it's funny because the mom lasted about an hour. She came to me, and I was dating her daughter, and so I'm married to his older sister. So the mom comes to me, she's like, hey, Jason, Keith really wants to play football, but can you just talk to him about other than football, like life after football, or maybe help him, because I just don't know, right? And this is just mom, she loves her kid, but she's being honest, because you're looking at a kid who's 5'2",
right,
way overweight and can't run. You're not looking at the Keith Smith of the Dallas Cowboys. And so he had a pretty unique journey, similar to mine, not having a bunch of scholarship offers, went to San Jose State, excelled there at linebacker, led the nation in tackles his senior year.
Right.
Doesn't get drafted, goes to the Cowboys as a free agent, plays linebacker for 2 years.
I was going to say, came out as a linebacker.
As a linebacker. Plays linebacker for 2 years, and then one offseason the coaches asked him, like, hey, would you mind trying running back? And in my opinion, and I feel bad because I was thinking in my head, and I think I may have even told him, like, bro, that doesn't look good when teams are starting to ask you. First off, you're not on an active roster every single game, but when teams start to ask you to change positions, it's not usually a good sign.
Right.
However, he kind of found his lane, man, and just kind of stayed in it, which I'm super proud of the kid, man. Really good kid, really humble, and now he's the starting fullback for the Cowboys. And he's a Stars athlete. And
he's creating his own brand. It's been awesome to see him create his own brand over the last few years since I've known him. So football runs in the blood, man.
Yeah, no, He's coming into his own as a dad, as a professional athlete.
You got a kid?
He has a kid. He has a baby girl.
Good.
So another girl added to this large family of girls.
Damn, you guys, that's all you guys pop out as girls.
Yeah. But he's doing good, though. I'm super proud of him.
So, from what I can gather, it looks like you do a lot of grilling, chilling, swimming, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little about what you do when you're not here running this joint. We'll get more into this and what Stars is, but I want to kind of stick with the personal side and the life side and the family. So, what do you do a lot of when you're at home? Some of your hobbies and activities and stuff you do in free time.
So it's usually when you have 4 kids, your free time is usually trying to spend time with them. You know, I'm able to get more time with my kids now than I did before, just because I've been able to grow the business and put people in positions to do the stuff that I used to do, which allows me to go home on a Tuesday at 12 o'clock or pick my kids up from school, which that's the goal, right? You want to set your business up and set yourself up to do those kind of things. And so when I have free time, so it's just hanging out with the kids, man. Just whether it's swimming, like you said, we have a pool at home, and that pool gets used every single day of the summer, and it's okay with me. That's why I built it. Or I'm just, you know, taking my daughter to a soccer game at USC or UCLA. You know, doing date nights with the wife. I mean, that's, you know, you're together that long and you have that many kids. You know, sometimes if you don't catch yourself, it can consume you.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
as a husband, right? So we try to spend time together,
Sure.
my wife and I, whenever I have free time, and I owe it to her, man. She's phenomenal, like I mentioned, but having to deal with a professional athlete, being a wife of a professional athlete, being a wife of an entrepreneur, is no easy task. And though it looks glamorous, and there are some perks, don't get me wrong, but she has to deal with me coming home frustrated about business, frustrated about losing clients or not getting a particular client or a particular account, and being a professional athlete wife, they deal with a lot. Like, I'm coming home mad, we lost a game, I had a bad practice, I had a bad game. And so now it's kind of her time where we can travel together and do cool things outside of Stars.
Okay, so that gives me, obviously I had a really good idea about your past, but I think that gives our listeners a really good idea of, you know, the genetic makeup, the DNA that makes up Jason David. Why don't you tell me a little bit about where we're sitting, man? So you get done with football.
Yes.
And you decide.
Well, no, so before, I got to correct you there, because I didn't finish football and then decide that I wanted to do Stars or that I wanted to, you know, start a business. That was something that I was working on during my football career, which I definitely want to talk about, you know, for our athletes and our guys who are playing in the NFL right now. But
so this was kind of a thing that happened before.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was every offseason, me coming home, working with kids. And so what I would do is, I didn't have this to train at when I was in the NFL. And not that I needed it, because I've always been a self-starter. I've always been kind of self-motivated. So what I would do every offseason, I would come home, and the local kids who were around in high school that went to Charter Oak or went to San Dimas or Glendora, I would welcome them to come work out with me. And I wouldn't charge them. I would say, hey, look, I'm going to be home at these couple months. If you want to come get some work, show up. Just don't get in my way. That was the only rule. You can come work out with me. I don't care who you are, how good or bad you are. Just don't get in my way. And it's cool because some of those kids would show up and they wouldn't say a word, and they would just do exactly what I'm doing. And every offseason I would come home and do it, and there'd be more and more kids. And then it just kind of became a thing, like, Jason's coming home in the offseason. I want to work out with Jason David. And those kids went on to do well. And that's kind of how it all evolved, is those kids had success kind of doing what I was teaching them and just working hard, kind of like, you know, how I did every offseason.
Yeah.
And
so you were staying at home. You go home, mom, pops?
What? I was staying on the couch, bro. Like, I was coming home, and this is funny because I would come home and my wife's mother, Julie, used to just let me crash on the couch, man. Like, I didn't have a room. I didn't have some fancy house or some Airbnb that I would come home to in the off season. I would literally chill on the couch. And if I wasn't working out, you know, those 2 hours, sometimes 5 hours a day, I was networking. And not that I knew what I was doing, but I was going out to talk to doctors. I was going out to talk to CEOs.
Right.
And that was how I spent my off season. I spent my off season training and working hard, helping kids, and then trying to figure out what I wanted to do outside of football and when I was done playing. And so here we are today at STARS, which is the acronym for Sports Training and Rehabilitation Services. And it's
You've
pretty
done
cool,
what
man.
You've done what you set out to do.
Yeah, man, it's pretty cool.
So it wasn't a thought after playing. It was during playing. You're saying there needs to be a resource. Not only, well, first you thought of it for pros. So there needs to be a resource for guys like me that, you know what I mean? Like, I have the money to do it. I just don't have I have nowhere to do it, and there's not a place that has this.
Yeah.
So so you started thinking of, maybe you were the guy to provide that.
Yeah.
And it came organically through training kids for free.
For free,
Yeah.
man. And really, and
being a neighborhood resource, kind of.
yeah, man. And so, like, before this 60 yards of field turf and this cool weight room, I would meet kids at the park, and I would try to help kids. And my wife used to get mad because I would charge parents $20. Like, first off, you're working out with the Super Bowl champ who started in the NFL, who led his team in interceptions, and he's charging you $20 to work out. Like, my wife couldn't understand it, and the parents the kids that I was working with, they couldn't understand it either. So they were like, hell yeah, we'll meet you wherever you
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I literally would go to a park. There wouldn't be lights on at the park, and I would be out there, and the parent would have their headlights on, and I'm trying to do drills, but I was just that committed. Like, if I commit myself to something, I'm going to go all in, and so
it wasn't always glamorous stars. It was you weren't scared to get out there and turn on the
Are
literally
you
car
kidding me?
headlights and
Yeah.
get done what needs to be done.
Ryan, like, even the time when I was kind of doing some research and doing my due diligence, like, I was driving an hour and a half to a gym in the Valley to work out, but two, kind of get an idea of how this industry works.
Right.
And then driving 2 hours back home in LA traffic. Now, this is before you had phone to keep you busy. Not that you're supposed to drive and talk on your phone, but
Right.
I'm sitting in 20 miles per hour traffic for at least an
Listening
hour.
to
I mean,
fucking Big Boy, because there ain't no
Dog, yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
You listen to Big Boy.
No, so like I'm trying to entertain myself, trying to stay awake, but that was my grind, man. Like, I was driving hour and a half, 2 hours to a gym to try to gain some knowledge of how to do this the right way. So yeah, it definitely wasn't what it is today, bro.
Okay,
Not
so-
at all.
But that after you got done playing and you decided, okay, I need to make that place, did you have a previous location or is this your first location?
So this is my first location. I almost bought a business in Newport.
Okay.
And that again, so at the time, I had bought my mom a house in Rancho Cucamonga, and my wife and I stayed there for a couple months just to kind of figure out where we want to get rooted and where we want to begin raising our family. And if you could think about the drive in your head from Rancho Cucamonga to Newport Beach, I did that for 2 years, and that's at least an hour and a half drive without traffic. So again, just my commitment to eventually having this one day, I was just so focused. And if I had to drive 3 hours to gain an experience, to get better, like, I would drive 3 hours. And
Right.
people wouldn't understand it, but I knew eventually it was going to pay off, just like everything else. Just like those 3 months I was in Florida training my butt off, I knew making that drive was going to pay off, and I would wake up and do it without a doubt. And I would do it again today if I had to.
Yeah, because you know the payoff.
Yeah.
So you've been able to create it.
Yeah.
Now let's tell everybody exactly what it is. It's an acronym that stands for Sports Training and Rehabilitation Services.
Correct.
And now we've talked about obviously prepping the pro football players, but that's not all Stars does. You guys work with youth, 3 years old to post-pro, right?
I wouldn't say 3 years old, but we've had some babies in here.
Okay.
5 years old sometimes. My partner Chris's son has hopped in workouts, but
Okay, so you've got youth to post-pro.
post-pro. So
like career help and stuff like
we
that.
serviced everybody from professional Irish dancers to women's golfers to, like you said, our post-NFL guys, taking care of them and making sure they're healthy. And so we do it all. And actually, the bulk of our business is youth activity, is evening activity.
Really?
Yeah, so it looks cool on social medias and our website with all our pro guys and pro athletes, but those don't keep the lights on.
Right.
It's fun to have them in here, and we love them. Trust me, they're lots of fun, and it's great for exposure of the brand. But what keeps the lights going is really our youth activity and our coaches being able to provide a really, really good service and a really good product to keep parents and teams coming back.
Okay. Now, you had mentioned social media real quick. Where can everybody follow along? Because you guys are always changing. You guys are always offering new cutting edge things and you're always documenting it. So where on social media can my listeners follow along with what you're doing and the cool stuff you got going on?
So we have a website. It's starssocal.com. And then we have our social medias, Instagram and Twitter. They're both the same handle. It's stars, STARS _SoCal. And if you go to our Instagram, that's probably the best representation of who we are and kind of the life and breath of Stars. We try to do a good job of posting content on there that is not just valuable, but just kind of cool to look at aesthetically, kind of a day in the life of some of our guys here.
On Instagram, what's your handle?
Stars, STARS underscore SoCal.
Stars underscore SoCal.
Yeah.
And that's the best spot to.
That's the best spot to
Okay.
check us out. And I got some stories behind that too, man, whenever you're ready, because it's not some large team of.
Well, tell me about it.
media-
That's what I want to hear. I
Yeah.
want to hear how you've been able to leverage technology, because that's been a big part of what's been going on since you opened your business.
Yeah.
Is basically a land grab for technology, and then who's using it right, and who's leveraging it, and who's utilizing the newest stuff that comes out. And obviously, I've been a big fan of everything you've been able to do there. What are you doing to leverage technologies, available technologies, to help grow your business, make your business easier, systemize your processes?
So we've always tried to be ahead of the curve, right? So I'll take you back to the Facebook days. So
Okay.
before there was even the stars, before there was even Instagram and Twitter, I would get on Facebook, I would watch college football, I would get on Facebook, and I would direct message kids saying, hey, I'm Jason David, this is who I am, I'm going to be at this park in the off season or at this location off season. Do you want to come train? And that's how I used to get after it, man. And I would literally watch an ESPN game, and it would say, ooh, Marvin Jones from Cal, he's from Etiwanda. Oh, that's not far from me.
Oh, and he can play.
Yeah, so
let's
let
see
me
what's
hit him up, exactly. And so I went to school for communications and always loved the idea of creating commercials. And that has always been a passion of mine, and that's what I wanted to do if I wasn't playing football. And if you can imagine, Instagram, it's like a commercial. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I love it because I'm able to create a perception of who we are and what we do through a type of communication, through a medium, right? And I get to use kind of what I learned at school. And our social media is literally done, it sounds crazy, but it's done on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there may be a couple people who contribute, whether it's from content of shooting it, but a lot of the stuff is really just sent and posted on my phone. Like my partner would send me stuff, and we don't have a huge team at maybe what it looks like on our social media, but it's really, hey, JD, you know, what do you think about this caption, or use this caption, or here's a cool photo.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, other than that, man, it's fun. Like I love leveraging social media, and we've always done that, man. Like Stars. So today, right, everyone thinks about working out, grinding, let's do this. Bro, if you look back at our social media, we were doing that in 2013, right?
The grind has been real since 2011.
Thank you, yeah.
The grind's been real here.
So we made it cool. So all I did was take a brand, a cool looking logo, and have people associate with that logo, that color, that brand of it's okay to grind. Like it's really cool to work hard. And I built a community and a following, and that's what you see on Instagram. It's not like a bunch of followers who like training. It's people who think the brand is cool, who think grinding is cool. So that's been fun. But how we leverage technology, man, like especially nowadays, I just bought an iPhone X or iPhone 10, and you know that was a really cool investment for me because I love shooting content here at Stars. I get to create commercials, right? And so we always try to post stuff, whether it's on Snapchat or Twitter, and just kind of be creative with it, man. Try to have fun. You know, we try to keep it kind of kid friendly, that 18 to 35, you know, age range.
Yeah.
And we just try to, you know, explain to people who we are and show people who we are if they've never been to Stars.
So most of the technology that you're leveraging is marketing technology through social media and stuff like that. I mean, you've obviously been able to build an awesome brand from it, so I'm taking notes on what you're doing there, man.
Thank you.
This place, physically it's not different from when I trained here. I trained on those platforms. I trained on, I don't know if you changed the turf, but it looks like new turf.
I got some new stuff. The end zone's the same, but I got some new stuff out there.
But physically it's the same, but man, none of the team, you got a big ass team here now, bro. It was like 3 people.
Yeah, and
You know
I was
what I'm
one of
saying?
those
You kept,
3.
you kept the circle tight because, you know, you were figuring out what the lane was gonna be, but now it's like, the people, the listeners have been able to see everybody walking around in the back, and they can't see, but there's all kinds of parents and stuff right here. So why don't you walk me through a little bit of who makes up your team, what they do, and call out their name because I'm sure they're going to be listening.
Yeah,
so.
Well, Ryan, it wasn't easy, man. It was, and that's one of the hardest things I think that I've had to really endure was just finding the right people. You know, I love Tony Hsieh, the founder of Zappos, and he always talks about the culture of your business and having the right people and the right team. And it took us a while to get here. You know, it wasn't easy. And for a guy who has no business background, having to fire people and hire people is very, very challenging. Very challenging. As tough as you may be and as cool as you may be, when you have to tell somebody that they're no longer working for you, it's very hard. And so going through that and trying to put the right team in place is it's hard work, and those are those dog days to where you gotta, did I make the right decision? You know, is this the right person to have in this position? And so I think we're at a place right now where we have the best team that we can possibly have right now. I don't think there's anybody better than we can have at any of the positions at Stars than we have right now. And it's like I said, it's a lot of work, but we have a great team of coaches.
So how does it divide up? You got strength and conditioning, right? So who's the head of the strength and conditioning sector?
So that's the interesting part. So we don't have a head of strength and conditioning.
Okay.
And I did that for a purpose, because we've had people here that were the director of strength and conditioning, and not that they were bad people, but we need team players. The way that I want to run this company is we want team players, people that are going to do their job every day. So one of my favorite lines from Coach Tony Dungy is, do your job, right? That's the last thing he told us the night before the Super Bowl, do your job. And that was kind of my business background. I don't have an MBA, so learning from coaches that were successful at the professional level was all I had. And so what I noticed what he did was he put the right people in position and he trusted them. He let them go, right? And that's what, again, was one of the hard things to do is, hey, get the right people in position and let them do their job, right? Correct them if they're wrong, help them if they need help, but more importantly, just let them do their job. And so we have strength and conditioning coaches, we have a sports med team that services our athletes and services people who may just have an injury off the street.
So you got,
so we have a team.
break them down.
So yeah.
So you break them down with strength and conditioning.
Strength and conditioning. So we have a team of strength and conditioning coaches. Morgan Fennell, who does a lot of our NFL, our pre-draft. We have Brennan, who does also some of our movement stuff. We have Connor, who does kind of a little bit of everything, where he's strength and conditioning and some movement. We have Eddie, who's strength and conditioning coach. We just got a dope team.
So you got 5 guys?
We about five guys
people
in
helping
rotation.
you out with strength and
we
conditioning?
have Joe Lake, who's here right now, getting after it. He's been a really good addition. Hayden Reddick, who does some of our quarterback stuff.
Good.
So we really got a good, solid foundation of guys who understand the virtue of Stars and what we're about. Because you can have somebody working for you, but if they don't believe in the brand, if they don't believe in your vision and what you're doing, they're not going to work hard. They're not going to invest themselves into the brand. So that's our performance side. Then we have...
I like that you have more than one coach, because it allows all these coaches to stick to their inherent strength. You know what I mean? That way you don't have somebody who never played quarterback trying to teach someone how to play quarterback.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? You have one of your 7 coaches, oh, we got a quarterback specialist. That's his inherent strength. You need to go to him.
And what
I like that.
And what I've learned and what I don't shy away from now anymore, and I had to go back to my football days, is if you want to be the head guy, you better line it up. Because I'm going to bring in another coach who thinks he can be capable of being the head guy. And if you can't hold your own, there's got to be changes there, right? And that's just the nature of the beast. And that's
You talk about it easy, but it's hard to do that as the boss, because you don't want to be the bad guy. You're a nice guy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. But again, you got to have that separation.
Exactly.
And it's all come from experience, man. Like, trust me, the first time I had to tell somebody you're getting demoted wasn't easy.
Yeah.
But what my buddy told me, and I have a great bunch of people around me that I don't want to call them mentors, but people that I can call and ask them some questions about, hey, this doesn't feel right. And one of my buddies, Saban Lomack, who is the founder of Cousins Maine Lobster, who was on Shark Tank, really good guy. He goes, Jason, have you ever watched Hard Knocks? And I was like, no, not really. And he sent me a clip of a guy getting fired. And it really dawned on me. And he goes, Jason, would you rather have somebody kind of hurting your business or taking food off your kid's plate? Which one are you going to choose? Taking food off your kid's plate or making sure you have the right person in position? And so he really put it in perspective. And so at that point, I was like, okay, I have to change my approach. And so again, I don't have an MBA. Like, no one taught me this is how you run a business. This is how you hire. And so now kind of where we're at, we just got a good group. We have our sports medicine team. ATC, Damian Holly, who's super, super dope. And what I love is all our staff is former players, they're former athletes. And so they get that athlete mentality. So even when they're talking to a 12-year-old softball girl, they understand what it's like to play athletics, to play youth sports. Damian Holly,
they've been there.
Damian Holly, our ATC, our physical therapist, Nika, our director of sports med, Chanel, who has done a phenomenal job for us, who started as the front desk gal, who learned, and I challenged her every single year, challenged her every month, and she grew into this person who understands all facets of the business. She understands the strength and conditioning, she understands the sports medicine side, and so she's really dialed in our sports medicine this past year and a half, and she's continuing to grow us outside of California, which is our next step.
Nice. So you hear, I mean, these two questions are going to kind of relate to each other, and you hear a lot about pro athletes being able to make extraordinary amounts of money, but having nothing by the time they retire or shortly after they retire. And I don't know the exact statistics, but I think it's like over 80% end up with like less than like 10% of what they made a few years later. It's a crazy statistic. Obviously, you've been able to avoid being one of those, and if people that are listening haven't been able to gather, it's because of your hard work, because of your determination, because of your drive. I don't really know what else to tell them, but how have you been able to avoid being a stat like everybody else? And then how do you think that has allowed you, that mentality, to change the game of not only prep, but career prep for after? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I know.
It makes a lot of sense. Really, if athletes, and this doesn't just go for professional football players, I think it relates to any professional athlete. You can't wait until you're done playing a sport to figure out what you want to do. And at the end of the day, if you can get an idea of what you want to do, maybe something you're passionate about, or how you can feed your family after football, because when I was done, I was still fairly young. Like, I have a lot of life to live. And so what I realized, and not everybody's going to get it though, and that's the unfortunate part, man. Like, I can sit here and I can do a whole podcast on this is what you need to do while you're playing in the NFL, or some guys they're not going to get it, right?
Right.
But the ones that do understand, and hopefully the ones that are listening today, figure out what you want to do while you're playing. Don't wait till you're done playing, because what happens when you're done playing, and that transition's a beast, and you know this, when you hang those cleats up, it's time to start really thinking about life. Like, life hits you, right? And you don't get those text messages and those phone calls from your buddies who are on the team now. You're kind of just on your own. And so the best thing you can do is have something to do when you're done playing. And so what I always recommend and tell guys is, like, look, find a hobby. Find something that you might enjoy doing that can make you a little bit of money after the NFL, and then start with that. Like, you don't have to be an entrepreneur and jump into business right away, but figure something out. Don't wait. Off season, you have 4 or 5 months of not really doing anything. Like, use that time to talk to people. Use that time to go meet with people that might be, you're in the NFL. Like, this is the craziest part. Today's game, the NFL, what I look at it, is a huge marketing platform for every single player.
Let me stop you there, because what I was going to say was, what you're putting in a nutshell is use your power when you have it. Not the money, not the anything, but your name and the NFL tag attached to you allow you to get in contact with people that can help you.
People that want to help you.
Want to help you, not can, but want to, because of that tag. So use that power that you have while you're there to line up something for you afterwards.
And you don't have to be an NFL starter. You don't have to win a Super Bowl. As long as you play or even have some association, like, you could be out the league for a year, people are still going to want to talk to you. But while you're in the thick of your career, while you're in the middle of your career, the beginning, hopefully, start to use
that power.
Start to use that platform.
And another thing that I picked up on what you were saying is, you can't, although your job is football, you can compartmentalize your life. You need to be focused to play at your top level.
100%.
But when it's not the season, if you're not focusing on your body, which takes 3 to 4 hours a day, you need to be focusing on something else, which is your future and how you're going to get out of it, right?
You just said 3-4 hours a day. Like, what job in the world do you know that you can work? First off, they're basically paying you to work out, right?
Yeah.
Most guys that play the game for free, the hard part is that off season and working. So most guys, if they can understand that you can use 3-4 hours out of your day in the off season every single day, and then maybe use 2 or 3 dedicated to what do I want to do after football. Maybe today I make phone calls to people CEOs that I'm interested in talking to, or maybe today I go drive and talk to a company and see if I can get an internship, or just shadow the boss or the manager. That stuff is easy. It just takes effort. And I think and I love the
And
NFL.
it's even easier when you're like, yeah, I'm so-and-so looking for an internship with the so-and-so, someone they watch on TV.
Dude.
Why are they not going to do that?
Yeah, exactly.
So what you're saying that allowed you to kind of make the transition easier was, you started working, man, before you retired. You said, okay, this is what I'm passionate about. It doesn't really exist, but I'm going to start, in my free time, which is the off season, when I'm not working on my craft, which is making sure I know the playbook, making sure that my body's healthy, ready to go. I'm going to start building for my future. rather than jump on the sticks, which is play video games, rather than go down to the beach and chill, which is all fun, but nowadays you can do that on your phone at the beach. You can do what you need to do, but it ain't gonna happen for you.
No, you really have to really make your mind up and just get after it, man. And I wish I'd have did more. And I thought I did a pretty good job, but I wish I'd have did more. And so my advice to guys is just take advantage of what you have right now, which is, like you said, that NFL tag behind your name and all the free time, man. You have an off season, and I mean, think about it. You don't start working out right in the off season. Like, you take a couple of weeks off, maybe. Dude, during those weeks, while you're traveling, start looking at internships or start looking at businesses that you want to be a part of.
And as a side note, if you are a pro listening to this and you want to get into real estate investing, call me, because I can help you do that, whatever city you're in. It's a process that I can teach, and something that's an easy way to use what you've earned playing off the field and have some free time afterwards. So 100%. If that's something you want to do, I'll be a great resource for you. That's how you're kind of changing the game with pros, as far as you weren't a direct mentor to me, but just watching you from afar and the time we spent together and seeing how you do it, you definitely impacted me and changed the game in the way I look at what I'm capable of after ball. Because even though I'm, a real estate investor and I have a career, when I was in football, I didn't really think there was much more for me. Although I had great grades through school, which indicate, potential for a good job, but I didn't know that I had that. But then when I saw you, I'm like, damn, this dude's like a fucking businessman, entrepreneur. So I think that's one way that you're changing the game from the inside is, being one, like a direct mentor, and then an indirect mentor to a lot of people. Like, damn, he won a Super Bowl. Damn, he still talks to so-and-so. Damn, he's friends with Sabin. This is crazy, you know what I mean? And I think that's one way that you're changing the game. But what's another way that you're using this facility to impact maybe youth, maybe high schools? One way that you're different from any other gym out there, or something that you tried to use to differentiate yourself?
Just being the family, having the family atmosphere. I think a lot of times you go to these places and train and you're just a paycheck. And what tends to happen is those places that treat you like a paycheck, you don't want to go back there. Would you rather go to a place that might not even know your name or might not say hello to you when you walk in, whereas you come to Stars and we're treating you like you're coming home for Thanksgiving? We want you to feel like, damn, man, I miss this place. I can't wait to go back and get some love. Especially in the NFL, the industry that we're kind of the audience we're talking about right now. There's not a lot of welcome arms, right? When you go to places, especially when you go to your team. Exactly. So for us here, we want the guys to feel like, man, this is home. These are my guys. And I think that's our separator. And the cool part is even for facilities or anybody that's at a facility that's listening to this, even if they try to do it, it's not real. You know what I mean? It's fake. Yeah. So this is who we are. It's our family versus your facility, and we say that because we mean it. And it's not just from our athletes too. We treat the staff and the team the same way. If I called Chris, my partner, wife broke down in LA, and I said, bro, can you mind just go being there to the coach? No problem, no question. And this is at 11 o'clock at night. Mind you, he's a family man as well. Chanel, our sports med director, blows a tire. Hey, Damien, our ATC, do you mind going to help out? No questions asked, not an eye blink, nothing. And so it's really just different here. And we even hashtag that sometimes too. It's just different. And it's funny because people don't really understand it till they walk through the doors, till they get greeted, till our front desk gal, Jessica, knows your name before you even get there. Right? So it's all those little things. And really, man, it's creating an experience, dude. There's 1,000 of these facilities across the country. There's some that are bigger.
There's 1,000 in LA.
Yeah, straight. Yeah,
you differentiated yourself.
Yeah, there's some that are bigger, way more equipment. But the difference is we just genuinely care, right? And we genuinely want to see every athlete that walks through here succeed and reach that next level.
And that's why I've been such a big proponent of Stars. I'm not here because, obviously you're great, you're Jason David, but I'm here because I love you and what you've done, and you took care of me when I was coming out. And that's, basically what you said, I can vouch for, and I'm a critical son of a bitch. I'm a hard motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? I'm hard to impress.
Yeah.
And I trained at another facility, and I saw what you were doing, and I actually reached out to you through social media and said I'd love to come by. As you said, it's not a very open arms community. I was very surprised when you said, dude, come by Tuesday. I think I emailed you Sunday, and I was there on Tuesday. Didn't really discuss prices, which is interesting because everywhere I go, that's the first thing they want to tell me is they want to give me their paper that tells me their packages and what I can benefit. So I knew it was different, and from that time, this was basically my prep spot for what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And even since then, you and I communicate often, not every day, but we communicate often, a couple times a month. We stay in touch, and you've made me feel like a fam, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've transitioned out of football, out of not all athletics, we're going to talk about Tony a little bit, but I transitioned out of football, and I still talk to you about business. We talk about real estate. You welcome me in here so that I can, use this and practice and get going, you know what I mean, and put you in a great light. So it's different talking about it and saying, yeah, we're family, but it's another thing to be like, I don't do anything for you, and you're still spending 3 hours with me.
That's
you know what I'm
good,
saying?
man.
It's different.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can talk about it, but that's how I think you're changing the game. You're about it. And it's like, if you treated me like shit when I was coming out like everybody else did, like I wouldn't be back here talking to you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't go to my previous gym to talk to them because they weren't family to me.
Right.
They weren't cool to me. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, I really think that's your inherent strength, and that's how you are changing the game, really.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Thanks.
dude. Do you mind if we get a little bit into future and kind of your plans for this beast that you've got going on?
Yeah, definitely.
So what's next for the always changing stars? I know that you guys are going to be on the cutting edge of athletics and offer that, and I know that, but in the past we've talked about programs for guys getting out. What's kind of on your mind or next up, if you can talk about it? I know there's contractual things on some stuff.
Yeah, I'll get into a little bit without too much detail, but we're always trying to grow, and if we're not growing as a business, as a company, and as individuals within this business, we're not doing what we need to be doing. And so I always try to surround myself with people that I think can help me grow, because what happens as a visionary for this company, if I can grow, I know I can continue to grow the business. And so what I've been doing on a personal level is just really trying to get around some industry leaders, people who are in business that understand how to grow businesses, such as my buddy Sabin Lomax, such as Gary Vaynerchuk, such as Barbara Corcoran from Shark Tank. Those are people that I want to surround myself with to help the business grow. Not just on a personal level, but being able to
scale the success.
You know what I mean? So
have a bigger impact.
I always scale or bail. That's kind of been my scale or bail, right? So what I've been doing is trying to figure out, how do I continue to grow stars and scale it in different areas? And so what we've been able to do, and again, I won't go into too much detail, but right now we have a group of doctors in Dallas who service my brother Keith, and some of the other Dallas Cowboys. And what we want to do is we want to be able to service our athletes year round. I don't want to be able to service our athletes when they're here in Southern California, because they're only here for a small amount of time. And so what we've been able to do is find a way to service our athletes in whatever state that they live in with an affiliation kind of group, so to speak. And so that's kind of been the next step, man. And it sounds crazy, and I hope I can play this back 5 years from now, but my goal is to have what I have in Dallas in all 32 cities, serving all 32 teams. I know it sounds crazy, and
even if it's small, they know that what they're getting is what they need, and it's consistent, right? You look at today's game; everybody wants to make sure that they're taking care of their body. Everybody wants to make sure they're getting that exclusive kind of personal treatment, and I think I found a pretty cool way to do it, and it's worked, right? So we're doing a good job in Dallas. My goal is to expand to maybe 4 more by the end of the year. I won't go into which cities, but it's coming to a city near you. Good.
But yeah, man, we're just growing, dude.
Scaling.
Yeah, heck yeah. Not this size, but a good enough size so we can service our athletes whenever they need something.
Exactly. You don't need to take this big old box, but the business needs to be in a box and offered at where the athlete's at, because
100%.
They could be in Baltimore for 6 weeks, they get cut, they're in Indianapolis, then all of a sudden they're in Houston for the playoffs.
And the goal is to
have a spot at all of them.
Yeah, so it's just like anything else. If you're in Dallas
and you're
and
working
you play
through
for
a
the
heel
Cowboys,
injury or something, you don't want to tell your people.
Say you go to Philadelphia to play a conference game, and oh man, there's the stars out here.
They know your heel injury. They know what's going on.
100%.
I see the vision, bro.
100%.
I see the vision,
It's something
bro.
light, though. Yeah.
No, it makes sense.
Light.
No,
Yeah.
that makes sense, man. So I guess we already kind of touched on what's next for you. You want to keep getting around people that can you're not looking for a handout. You're looking for inspiration from these people, ideas from these people, and guidance from these people who can help you scale what you've already been successful at building.
So those minutes, those hours, those days that I'm around those industry leaders, that's my college, that's my MBA, right? I'm behind, right? In football, that's like a guy that's never played football before trying to make the team at the Indianapolis Colts, where I've been playing football my whole life. So what I'm up against guys who went to Harvard Business School. I'm up against guys who went to USC, right? And so what I have to do is I got to catch up.
Yep.
So anytime I get a moment to be around, whether it's Gary, whether it's Barbara, like I need it. Like I'm fiending for it. Like I got to soak the game up. You know
love
what I mean?
that you say that, bro.
And I have no ego. Like I'm going to listen, even if they're telling me something that I've heard before, that I already know. I might get something from it. And so that's always been kind of where I'm at, and who I am as a person, that I think has helped me become successful, and just not being afraid to ask questions too, man. Like, dude, if I'm gonna get in front of a successful entrepreneur, like, please believe I'm gonna ask him at least one or two. Like,
For sure.
I have to.
For sure. And man, and that's what gets me. It's like, so I do jiu-jitsu, heavy into jiu-jitsu now. That's what kind of keeps me, my competitive edge. And I can't tell you how many buddies I have that are black belts in jiu-jitsu. I mean, they will fuck you up in the streets. And then they try to make money out of it, and they step into our world.
Yeah.
And then I try to give them, like, hey man, think about how you can make money as a black belt. And they're like, basically, who have you helped? And I'm like, look, man, I know that we have like status in jiu-jitsu, but in the business world, think of me as like a brown belt and you as a white belt. So that's the advice I'm giving you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, I get the concept of being a black belt in one thing and a white belt in the other. I love that you recognize that you started off as a white belt in business and you're trying to get that blue belt, or you're trying to get that scholarship to, like, you know what I'm saying?
100%.
I respect that, because trying to explain that to somebody who's full balls to the wall on one thing, a lot of times they don't know it, and you're like, I just want to help you. I'm not trying to direct. I'm just trying to help you, dog.
Yeah.
Man,
but you got to be open. You got to be open to the help. You got to want the help, because if you don't, then it's just gonna fall by the wayside.
And I took that personally. A lot of times when I try to help someone, because I see them as like a close friend, or I see potential out of somebody, not everybody's open to that and receptive, and I took it personally for the longest. I still do.
Yeah.
But it's
But
hard.
you just don't take it as personal for that long.
Exactly.
Now you're probably more like, all right, man, whatever, bro.
It's like a bad girlfriend. It's not me, it's you.
Yeah.
No, I'm fucking around. So what would you say is your overall goal, or the impact you'd like? I mean, it's pretty simple based on me knowing you so much, but if you had to put in a couple sentences, what would you say is the overall impact you'd like to leave, or the legacy you'd like to leave on,
So
this whole sports performance, and maybe even bigger than that?
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, it's definitely bigger. Having 4 kids, almost 5 now, and hopefully one day when I'm up in heaven, I'm looking down on my girls, and what I would love to hear is, oh man, your dad is the one that did this, or your dad is the one that invented this, or just really being able to not add value while I'm here on earth, but be able to impact and add value when I'm gone, like that legacy part, right? So, I mean, that's really what
Something
I'm
that
driving
speaks for you
man.
when you can't speak anymore.
You know what I mean? And so if I could, one, make my kids proud, make my girls happy, that's obviously the goal. But beyond that, if I can have people recognize and feel like I've added value to their life, that's all I'm looking for, man. I don't really need a bunch of awards, or I don't really need like a ton of ceremonies. I mean, that stuff is cool, don't get me wrong, but if I can help like you or anybody or another athlete, like, man, that gets me excited. That warms my heart, because I didn't have anybody that sat and was like, hey, JD, this is what you should think about, man. Like, hey, pay attention to these pitfalls, or watch out for this. And so because I didn't have that, man, I got to give it to people that are up and coming. Yeah, man. It's just it makes you feel good, and you're adding value to someone's life, to their world, bro.
Yeah, continue to have impact on young men and women's lives like you impacted mine.